Welcome to Meet the Creators, a podcast dedicated to the art of business and the business of art. Meet the creative minds behind marketing campaigns, commercials, business, and art. Tune in to better understand the value of creative minds in marketing and business as we build the bridge between business and creative artists.
Hey everybody, Gene here, and welcome to another episode of Meet the Creators. Today I have a very special guest of mine. She is an ex-colleague, a mentor, and now turned entrepreneur running her own business, Curated Style. Please welcome Dera Campbell. Thank you for being here and taking the time to talk about yourself and Curated Style. So why don't we just start with you kind of giving a little bit brief background about your professional career and what has led you to now running Curated Style?
Well, you and I go way back, I think in several different media jobs. So I have always been in digital ever since grad school. So for the past 20 years, I really focused on building my career in advertising and digital marketing and running, ad operations of really large private companies as well as startups. And then I just, have been really climbing that corporate ladder, as you say. And after, moving to Thailand for my last corporate job, I realized with COVID and everything else, I didn't want to do that anymore. I kind of reached the pinnacle of what I felt was the corporate world, and I wanted to do something more creative. So that's where I am today. But I have a lot of advertising and marketing background to support what I'm doing today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of the general energy around that time of the pandemic, right? Everyone started seeing this window of opportunity to start exploring passions of their own. So it's exciting that you decided to take that leap. With that said, what has been, I guess, the biggest challenges going from, I guess, what you're used to, the corporate ladder, 9 to 5, and now running your business from top to bottom, handling everything from the marketing, the sales, being the face of the business? What would you say have been the biggest challenges there?
Oh my gosh. I mean,
If you could
there's
pick a couple.
100 different challenges. So
Right.
this might be the longest section of this conversation. I'm joking. The biggest challenge, of course, is that I am my only employee. And that's how most startups, and most creatives start out. You have to do everything. So I think perhaps the corporate world prepared me for being able to do everything on my own without, having a mental breakdown. And it's okay if you do, if that happens. But
Right.
yes, advertising, marketing, operations, I'm trying to build my social accounts where I have my brand and my essence there. So being a social media, manager and content creator, in addition to sourcing my products. So I work with Thai and Lao partners. So in between all of these other, I guess, administrative details as well and running the business, you have to also be merchandising and designing. So it's a lot, and nothing can be done without being hyper organized. And of course, I have the benefit of help from my husband from time to time, even though he has a full-time corporate job. Occasionally, my son, helps me with inventory and photography. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
learning new skills every day, right? So you can't do this if you have no patience or if you're not willing to learn. Because every day I make mistakes and I'm like, oh, geez, okay, I got to learn this new app. I have to learn something else. And, you're always screaming at, Instagram algorithm and that stuff that changes all the time. But that's what you do. And that's part of the problem solving. It's full
Yeah.
on problem solving every day.
Problem solving on the grind, new. Once you conquer one mountain, there's another one waiting for you, and you just kind of got to keep on
Right.
going.
But it's
You talked
satisfying,
so
right? It's satisfying.
yeah, especially I mean like with things that are challenging, you're like, okay, I have to do this. I have to do this just to move forward. And
Yeah.
then you put in the time and sweat and effort, and you finally understand it, and you're like, all right, on my belt, on to the next.
Yep. Completely.
Um,
Yep.
can you talk a little bit like what inspired you to develop curated style and the design
Mhm.
behind it? What's the story behind the creation of curated style?
Sure. I lived in Thailand for 3 years, as I mentioned, for a corporate job. And as that was winding down, I noticed that there are so many beautiful crafts in Asia in general. I noticed that 20 years ago when I visited Bali and thought, gosh, wouldn't it be great if I could sell all of these baskets and, take it to the US? And lo and behold, now, that's a huge part of home design now, all the Balinese furniture and that bohemian look. But being Lao, having been born in Laos and having that aesthetic in my mind, I wanted to, of course, incorporate the Lao and Thai design. So what I'm trying to do is take the traditional designs that maybe kids who grew up with Lao or Thai parents are like, oh, that's too colorful or too traditional, and make it modern.
Mm,
So I started searching for partners, and there are amazing women entrepreneurs who work directly with female artisans to help them
that's amazing.
um, conserve and preserve, weaving textiles, baskets, and then trying to affect how they market to the global audience. So making the designs more modern, perhaps more different colors that are more acceptable to the US market, and different QA and quality ideas, right? So it's understanding what the market here would bear and then helping the artisans there to design it in such a way that they have a market outside of their own. And there's definitely an appetite for that.
Yeah, I was going to ask like what makes curated style unique, but it sounds like you kind of already explained that in terms of who you're hiring, preserving culture, and also,
Hmm.
adjusting the style to make it, consumable for people here in the West. Looking back, if there's anything that you could do differently from the beginning, knowing what you know now, what would you change?
Well, it's funny because we started the LLC and doing all that paperwork to build the company on paper in December of 2019, and not realizing that in California, there's an $800 tax for starting your company that you have to pay by the end of the year. So don't do that. Start your business at the beginning of the year. Um, but I think you don't know until you actually do it, even if you read and get advice from,
Right, right.
people on the legal aspect, on the accounting aspect. So those are kind of the non-fun parts of being an entrepreneur. So definitely what I've learned is to be organized with your paperwork. It doesn't sound that fun, but eventually you're going to have to do that with your taxes and be accountable for all of those things. And at the same time, um, I try to be very consistent about learning. Um, so there's always people you can follow. There's always free seminars that you can take. But there's just not enough time in a day. So now, um, what I've learned is that you have to make those time, and you have to make sort of almost like a timeline. So maybe this week you're going to learn how to film short reels, right? Or next week it's going to be um, Facebook Live. And so many people have said, "Oh, you should start doing Facebook Live." And my first reaction is like, "Hell no," because it's it's scary to be in front, to be
Yeah,
selling products and standing, by yourself in front of a camera and talking about your products and then looking on the screen to see the comments.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
ready for that, but I can work up to it. I think, I can do a PowerPoint presentation or a slide deck in the corporate world and talk to thousands of people, right? In front of a big audience. But doing something live, like selling live, would be petrifying. It's
No,
terrifying to think about. So,
no, I hear that. I mean, so you're talking about being organized and being proactive with like learning with certain different aspects of your business. What are some other things that you would consider qualities and traits that you would need to be a successful entrepreneur, right? Because at the end of the day, like you said, you kind of have to just do things, and then from doing those things, you're going to learn other things. So if you do have any
yep.
couple, I guess, qualities, what would you say those would be to if you want to actually be a successful entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is you have to be resourceful. Um,
Mm,
because again, you're relying completely on the resources you have, both human and non-human, right?
right, right.
You have to. I think it's getting up every day and thinking that there's something to be accomplished, and even if you get one thing done versus the 10 that's on your list, don't be so hard on yourself, because you need a lot of resilience. So sometimes I think that it's going to take me, I don't know, 5 minutes to do a graphics in Canva, which I use a lot.
Canva's
And when I
amazing, by the
first
way.
began, yes, I love it. And when I first began using it and learning, the pro uh, things that you can do on it, I would spend so much time. And sometimes it would take me half a day just to do a, a graphics. And I did my own branding, choosing the colors and the fonts. Um, I'm sure I could have hired somebody, but it was just more satisfying um, to show that everything was built by my own, creativity and my own skill set. And if I didn't have that, I would go and try to learn it. So I think resilience, finding resources that are free, because you can't, spend and use up all of your expenses for things like that,
Right.
right? I have to buy the inventory. I have to make business cards and so on and so forth, right? So it's resilience, patience, determination, and also not giving up when you make mistakes, because that's really easy to do.
Very well said. I
It's
mean,
constant.
I can echo that sentiment. Trying to build something on your own. I try to remind myself that, sometimes if things are going slow or not going as expected, all it takes is really to look back a year or two and look at where whatever you were doing at that time, and just to put into perspective, like, I actually have been doing all these things and I am in a different place than I was a year ago. So the resilience and is a big thing, especially for me, right? I always say you have to walk the plank. You're going to have to do certain things that you're not prepared to do, but they're necessary for, whatever you're trying to accomplish in the future.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people give up because I have the luxury, and this is, I think, a truth that people should know about entrepreneurship. I have the luxury of not relying on this particular venture, as you'll say, to pay for my mortgage or things like that, because I've worked for 20 years. I have savings. And I'm certainly not blowing through, our family savings, because then if you were doing that, I would say maybe you should consider waiting, because dreams don't have to be immediate. Some people know that they were going to be entrepreneurs or have their own business at 5, and then maybe they're doing something at 15, or 25. But if I were to do this at 25, I probably would not have been able to pay for my rent, be financially independent in the beginning, right? Because it takes time to scale, and maybe it takes a year, maybe it takes 2. So I'm now about a year into it, and the first year is all about building the brand and
Right.
all the administrative things. I spent 6 months of this brand building in Thailand, and I had a very good first pop-up market, and it was very successful. And that's how I knew that there was something there, and people like my aesthetic, that there was a market. Um, and then the other 6 months was when we moved back to the US. And here I had that experience behind me, so I was like, sure, I'll just do 7 more pop-ups with in the span of,
Right.
4 short months. And that's not easy to do. It's so much organization and preparation. But now I would say, okay, now pop-ups are not that hard. I know what to
Got
do.
it under your
So you
belt.
just have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
keep, yeah, you just have to keep doing it. And even if it's scary, especially if it's scary, you should have try it. You have to try
I like that advice. Usually when
it.
things are you're afraid of them, you should try to run to them instead of away from it.
Yes. Yes.
Well, speaking of pop-ups now, let's go to the next question, which would be, what's your philosophy and methodology on marketing? I mean, there's a lot of different ways, and I'm sure you know all the different ways that you can do it, but being new and upcoming on your own, what has been, your method and your strategy to market curated style on your own?
This part is fun. It's fun for me because this is the creative part, right?
Right, right.
Uh, Content creation. Um, I would say that putting myself out there is one of the first things that I needed to do and to get over,
I like
meaning
that.
to show your face. And I
I
think
like that. Yeah.
people tell you that, but when you're a business, you're like, well, I don't want to show my face. I can just put a logo, I can take a lot of pretty pictures. Like, I'm not the brand, but when you are doing things for yourself, you are the brand.
Yeah, one could argue
Um,
you are the brand.
I am the brand, in addition to designing or curating beautiful products. So the first thing I had to do was really think about how I portray myself as the brand. And again, it's being authentic. Part of the design and what I'm doing is trying to infuse that culture, the arts and crafts, and highlighting, all the beauty that comes with the way people make things with their hands. And I just have to worry about the people who follow me and who want to be inspired by the culture that creates, all this beautiful home goods. So it's a focus, and it's a niche. So I think you have to be able to understand what your essence is, because you're not marketing to everybody in the world.
Right, right.
You are marketing to the people who will want to see you and want to follow you, and lastly, perhaps want to purchase something from you. And I spend a good deal of time um, mixing in terms of social, for Instagram and for Facebook. By the way, if you have time, all your social accounts should be different, and each should have different content. But if you don't have time to literally update your website, Pinterest,
It's a
Facebook,
lot.
Instagram, TikTok, it's a lot. So I just made a decision to focus on one or two and just do well on that.
And
And
I
so
really like that.
Instagram, yeah, so I think Instagram is fluid enough. There's, of course, uh, lots of different ways in terms of whether it's static pictures or videos or, reels is a great way for all of us amateurs to just edit our video and make it look like somebody professional could have done it.
Can I just say, the last time we talked about
Yeah.
Reels, I think after one of our conversations, I was telling my team, I was like, stop just doing regular posts, make them all Reels, because that's just where it's at. And I think the first one we did was with like UCSF, and we got like 10,000 views on it, and it was huge. I was like, guys, like, stop doing the regular posts. So for all you people out there, make sure you start doing Reels on Instagram.
Oh, of course. And the minute it got to Thailand, it it took a while, it took months, but we tried
Mm.
it and my friends and I tried it and we were like, "Oh my God, how do you write and get that, writing in between each
Mm.
frame?" And it took forever to learn that. So so now I know that Instagram has launched Reels across, I think, the world, but it was only in certain markets. And when it got to Thailand, it was like, let's experiment. And yeah,
Game
it
changer.
was a game changer. It really was. And it's a lot of fun. And so part of it is also seeing the trends, right? Social media is all about trends.
All
Um,
about trends.
and yeah, and if you have people you follow, I have people who I admire, I follow. I look at how they do their reels. I look at how what music they use, how they edit it. So I definitely learn a lot from that. And then on the website side, I've learned a lot about Shopify, where my website is on. And so I'm also, the web designer and update person and the uh, copywriter. So every so often, well, probably every day, but I make a schedule that I go and make updates on the inventory, um, doing a newsletter, and keeping track of my subscribers.
Well, you were talking a lot about picking a niche and focusing on the audience, that matters to you. And I think that's important
Hmm.
because, today there's so much content and there's just so much noise in terms of even the platforms. You mentioned earlier, there's like 5 different platforms that you're on. And so trying to find or picking the ones that work for you and, focusing in on that audience is very key because, like you said, there's no way you're going to get everybody or capture and reach everybody. By selecting, your niche and your audience, have you tried implementing any storytelling? You mentioned that you watch and study a lot of other content creators in terms of what they do.
Hmm.
Have you attempted to implement any storytelling into your marketing strategy? And if you haven't, have you seen anything that you're like, wow, this is a pretty cool way of, I guess, storytelling their brand? Has anything like that inspired you, or have you done anything like that yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. Storytelling is super important. I think if you are posting on Instagram, your posts have to have a little bit of a story, right? It's not just one word, hump day or happy Friday or, Saturday vibes. Of course, I try to tell a story. Um, More formally, I really admire, um, of course, I'm a huge Joanna Gaines fan, right? Magnolia and
Hmm.
anything that she does is amazing. Um, I also like Oh Joy.
Oh, Joy.
She's Thai American, and she has a very creative brand. She's a designer, and she does storytelling very well with her brightly colored designs. And so I'm going to incorporate a lot more of that in terms of video blogs, right? I think
Mm.
that's a really great way
We're
for
going
people to
live.
see you. Yeah, like podcast is another, but video blogs, a lot of it, it's amazing that people film themselves in front of a closet or in front of their mirror. And they just talk. They talk about what they're doing. And at first I thought, gosh, who's gonna watch that? Like, who's gonna watch me talking about, my baskets, But there
People,
is
you'll be surprised.
exactly. I mean, people do it all the time with food, right? The
Yep.
people, when the whole trend, I mean, it's still going on. It's not just a fleeting thing, but people watching other people eat.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. Or cooking, and you don't even have to say anything, or you just have a little bit of a voiceover. Um, but yes, in the home decor space, which I'm in, there's many people doing, reels and video and blogs of before and after, or just them moving through their space and decorating their home with their products. So it's something that I hope to do more in the future. But again, that's me, being in front of a camera
Right,
and
right.
going about my day. And with 3 kids, and sometimes, the house doesn't look Instagrammable. It takes time to plan for that, right? I mean, you think that these things are spontaneous. Well, you and I know that creating this
It's not
this
spontaneous.
content where your house looks absolutely perfect and clean and neat all the time, it's planned.
It's
Because the
absolutely
rest of the
planned.
time, yeah, because the rest of the time you have to live.
I think what's great about, you're saying people recording themselves, and I think it's the way consumers like seeing the brands that they're purchasing, right? For example, like when I look at food videos, I could make the food, I could look up a recipe, but for whatever reason, it's just like the person that's making it. It adds the character to whatever it is. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to start. I like this person now just because of the way they're talking and how their energy behind it. So it does add just like another layer of character. And, I guess in a way it makes the consumer feel a little more personal with the brand, right? Because now you're seeing someone
Yep.
that's running this brand, but you're actually like seeing them in their own normal space. So it does, I feel like it does have long lasting effects, assuming that you're a likable person and people enjoy watching you.
Right. Well, that's where the personality and your authentic self comes in. I mean, it's hard to fake that, right? Um, it's like anything. I mean, it's like being a friend to total strangers. It's having them connect with you even though you've never met. And by the way, in this whole culture of entrepreneurs, eventually, if you do enough pop-ups, you have certain followers that follow you because you have a similar aesthetic or similar, ideas on how to connect and run a business. I've met some amazing entrepreneurs, Lao, Thai, and now we're friends. We made it a concerted effort to meet each other face to face, and there's a whole community out there of small businesses, and it's amazing what people create. And I think that's the part where people don't see if all you're doing is shopping at Amazon, or Target. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because all of us have to go, shop at Target at one point or Costco. But if you can take the time to look at the small businesses and people who run their business out of very, very deep passion, because you're certainly not doing it to get rich quick, trust me.
Right. It's
It's
going to take some
it's
time.
not. It takes time, but why do they do it? They're very passionate. People have also suggested, how come you don't put your products on Amazon? Well, there's a whole process. I've
Right.
actually signed up for the course, try to learn how to sell on Amazon, and there is a very, detailed process you have to go to. You have to go through a lot of putting your products at their warehouse and tagging it the right way. So if you want to do that, more power to you. I don't know that we're ready right now, but maybe eventually. I want to be intentionally small right now to reach the audience that really love our products, and then think about how we expand as that happens.
One of my favorite lines from you is building the plane as we fly it. And that couldn't be any more
That's
true here.
right.
The last question I want to ask you is, do you have any words of advice for any aspiring entrepreneurs out there?
Do what you love, right? I'll tell you a story of how I got here. I think it's interesting because as Asians, we grow up going to school and thinking that when we graduate, we're supposed to be doctors and
That's
lawyers
what I thought.
right? Funnily enough, my brother's a doctor and another brother's a lawyer.
They did it.
But yes, they did. So I always thought, okay, I'm going to go into business because again, I have student loans to pay. So you come out and you get those corporate job and you keep moving up. But I always wanted a life that was much more creative. And I'm finally doing it now at, a much older age, because dreams are not linear. It's not a straight line. And I think people should be okay with that, because know that if you work towards something, there's different phases to life and different phases of careers. So you can start out with the corporate job, and then when the setting and the timing is right, move on to something that you really, really love. And mind you, I didn't hate corporate life. I just now get to do what I really love. So that's my advice, is that it may take some time, but everything that you do before that prepares you for this career right now.
I like that. Have that perspective, realize not everything happens right away, and have
Yep.
the patience and just self-awareness to tackle the dreams when they're possible. Well, thank you everybody for tuning into this episode of Meet the Creators. I want to thank Dera Campbell for coming on and being our guest today. It has been amazing. Until next time, keep on flocking with us.
Thank you for tuning in to Meet the Creators. I hope you found value in today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, and please share with a friend.